Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into our Boring Businesses for Extraordinary Wealth 2026 strategy guide. And we're going to completely shatter a cultural myth I know we've all bought into at some point. You know the one. We've been completely conditioned to believe that extraordinary wealth requires building this glamorous, disruptive Silicon Valley tech startup. We kind of just assume we need some million-dollar app idea or a massive social media following to achieve true financial freedom, right? But the data from our source material actually tells a completely different story. It turns out that the people who are living totally stress-free, the ones who travel whenever they want and owe nothing to anyone, are actually quietly operating in industries that 99% of people would literally never even consider because, well, they sound way too ordinary.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because looking at this 94.8% survival rate changes absolutely everything. That right there is the staggering 5-year survival rate for laundromats in the United States. Think about that for a second. That means out of every 100 people who open a laundromat, nearly 95 of them are still successfully operating half a decade later in what's a $5 billion industry. This establishes right out of the gate that ordinary, seemingly boring operations are the true secret to reliable stress-free wealth. Just look at this comparison. It's night and day. While laundromats are sitting super comfortably at that 94.8% success rate, nearly half of all average businesses completely close their doors within that exact same 5-year window. This perfectly illustrates how executing on everyday unavoidable problems, like the simple fact that clothes just get dirty on their own and people literally have to wash them, dramatically outperforms chasing the latest flashy trends. I mean, you don't have to convince a single person on earth that they need to do their laundry.
So here is the playbook we're walking through today. 1. The Glamour Trap. 2. The 2026 Opportunity. 3. Low-cost launchpads. 4. Recurring revenue engines. 5. The value-add hybrid. And finally, 6. Execution over innovation.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Glamour Trap, and why you need to stop waiting for the perfect idea.
So the real-world cost of waiting around for some glamorous idea is honestly staggering. Our source points out this psychological hurdle that's literally costing aspiring entrepreneurs years of income, and that is the paralysis of perfection. So many of us just want a business that looks impressive in an Instagram photo, right? Take Daniel and Alex, for example. Both guys are making about $55,000 a year at their day jobs. Now, Daniel is the dreamer. He wants this sleek online store or a cool personal brand. But because nothing feels perfectly right, he just waits. Over 5 years, he burns through $36,000 on unused software subscriptions and eating out. That sunk cost was exactly the capital he needed to buy an automated car wash or, 10 vending machines. But on the other hand, we have Alex, the doer. Alex swallowed his pride, spent just $3,500 on a pressure washer, printed some $30 business cards, and just started knocking on doors. Sure, his hands shook at first, but 3 years later, Alex has 2 employees, a fully equipped truck, and bills over $180,000 a year. He totally bypassed the glamour and went straight to the cash flow.
Moving right along to Section 2, the 2026 Opportunity. And guys, the data here is incredibly clear.
Now, what's really interesting about the macroeconomic landscape right now is that there has literally never been a better time in the U.S. to start a service business. Look at this projection. 94% of small businesses are projecting growth by 2026. According to the Small Business Administration data cited in our source, this is the highest growth projection ever recorded. And it's definitely not just blind optimism either. 56% of these businesses are already leveraging AI to optimize how they run, and 79% anticipate a bump in revenue. And the irony here, the businesses with the absolute highest growth projections aren't in tech, they aren't in social media, they are in everyday, tangible, boring services.
Which brings us to Section 3, low-cost launchpads. We're talking high ROI and zero glamour.
Okay, we're going to focus on businesses that require less than $10,000 to start but have just unbelievable earning potential. This is where you really have to drop any misplaced pride, because these unsexy jobs have practically zero competition. And why is that? Because people are simply too embarrassed to do them. Take Porta-Potties. Not glamorous at all, sure, but every single festival and construction site needs them, and you can rent them out for $75 to $175 a day. Or what about pet waste removal? There are 90 million dog households in the U.S. Getting just 100 clients to pay you $20 a week nets you $96,000 a year. Parking lot striping can pay up to $2,000 for a single afternoon's work, mainly because it's a legal requirement for businesses to have clear lines. And trash hauling, you're tapping into an industry that generated over $20 billion last year alone. Someone else's literal trash becomes your incredibly steady income.
When we actually look at the return on investment here, the numbers are just wild. Vending machines can be started for under $10,000, And a single machine can generate around $30,000 a year. That's with 30% margins and requiring super minimal hours. Pressure washing, that costs less than $5,000 to launch, pulling in $200 to $500 a job, with massive neighborhood referral potential. But check out the Notary Public line. For a $50 to $150 certification, you could be making $500 to $1,200 a day doing mortgage closings. And here's a huge hidden edge. If you happen to speak a second language, you instantly unlock a gigantic market of homebuyers who desperately need a notary who speaks their native tongue. Most notaries simply cannot access this market at all.
Oh, and just a really quick note on those vending machines. The real secret here isn't selling generic potato chips and soda. Nope, it's dominating highly specific niches. We're talking beauty product machines in salons, bait machines in popular fishing areas, or electronics in airports. The more specific your niche is, the faster your competition totally vanishes and the higher your margins explode.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, recurring revenue engines, or basically getting paid every single month.
Now, this right here is the holy grail of business, predictable, weatherproof income, where you've got clients locked in on auto-renewing monthly contracts. Look at the self-storage gold mine. This industry generates over $45 billion a year in the U.S., and the average net margin sits right around 41%. The average customer pays $128 a month and stays for 14.5 months. And the most amazing part? People literally forget what they even stored in these units, but their credit card just keeps getting billed month after month. And surprisingly, over 70% of these are still operated by independent mom-and-pop owners, not massive corporate chains.
Or take pest control. That's a $30 billion industry. A massive 85% of residential income in pest control comes from recurring service contracts. That means your customers are paying you automatically without you having to constantly resell them every month. Why? Because pests, just like dirty clothes or trash, they never stop existing. It's an ongoing problem that requires constant management, which equals constant, predictable revenue for you.
Moving into Section 5, the value-add hybrid, where no heavy equipment is required. Out of the 20 businesses highlighted in our source material, this is probably the ultimate counterintuitive model. It combines all the amazing benefits of recurring revenue and steady demand, but completely skips the heavy capital expense of buying equipment. To really grasp this, we need to define what's called an acquisition business. You absolutely don't need to invent anything from scratch here. Instead, you take a service that already exists, and you simply add a new layer of value to it. And in today's economy, the ultimate value add is convenience. People are already perfectly happy paying extra to have their food delivered, their dogs walked, and their houses cleaned.
And this brilliantly illustrates that concept. Wash and fold delivery. It's the perfect example in action. Most people still do their own laundry, sure, but that behavior is changing fast. Here's the big secret. You don't even need to own a physical laundromat to get in on this. You just partner with one that already exists, offer the pickup and delivery logistics to the customer, and you keep a 30 to 40% margin. By just bridging that gap between the customer's front door and the washing machines, an operator with just 100 recurring clients paying $30 to $50 a week can generate $12,000 to $20,000 a month. Think about that. You own 0 storefronts, and you own 0 washing machines. You just provide the unmatched convenience.
Finally, we reach Section 6, execution over innovation, the true path to ownership.
This is the final absolute mindset shift required to build extraordinary wealth. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to spin it better and more consistently than the guy down the street. Let's look at the landscaping industry. The barrier to entry is basically just a commercial mower and a willingness to sweat, right? But operators stay stuck making $40,000 a year because they keep charging like their employees. To turn that same gig into a $500,000 company, you have to follow this exact sequence. First, systemize the work. Second, hire employees. Third, step back and manage the people. You have to stop being the one who actually mows the lawn and become the one who manages the teams who mow. That specific shift from operator to owner is where the real life-changing wealth is generated.
And hey, if you're sitting there thinking you can't possibly do this alone, consider this massive number. Out of the 36 million small businesses in the United States, 82% are operated by a single person. That proves that literally millions of everyday people have already achieved financial independence. They did it without venture capital, without business partners, and without asking anyone for permission. They just got to work solving tangible, everyday problems.
So the crucial point is, it all comes back to this one defining idea. Boring businesses pay for exciting lives. True wealth isn't about having a glamorous job title. It's about the absence of fear.
It's knowing for sure that because you solve simple everyday problems, whether that's cleaning pools, hauling scrap metal, or fixing appliances, you have a rock-steady cash flow that will sustain you through recessions, layoffs, and unexpected emergencies.
Which leaves us with one final provocative question for you to chew on. How much longer are you going to wait? How much longer will you sit on the sidelines, scrolling through social media, just waiting for the perfect, glamorous idea of the century to magically strike? The real opportunities are already right in front of you, waiting for someone willing to drop their pride and get their hands a little dirty. Thanks for exploring this guide with me today on The Explainer. It definitely makes you rethink what true financial freedom really looks like, doesn't it?